Hello and welcome to Pluribus Unum's Fireside Chats. Not as good as FDR's, but hey, it's something. Now, first things first, housekeeping. Apparently, I am deceased again. I don't know what happened. I was doing fine, and then I was all of a sudden not doing fine, so it's like, I don't know what happened there. But the more interesting, relevant news was that I released the trailer for the next episode that I have been editing, and it is, of course, revealed that the episode that will be coming out, the next episode, the final, I guess technically main series video, it's technically the final main series video that I'm making this year because, after that I do the screw up videos, and it is a history of the Party of the Democratic Revolution. It's not the party history video that you wanted to be released. You guys voted over, when I did the poll, the last year when I did that, I did a poll where it was basically hey, what party history video would you guys want to do next? Would you want me to do next? And you all voted for the Farmer Labor Party, but I chose the Party of the Democratic Revolution instead. I might do another poll for the next party history video, maybe. But then again, at that point, why not just do the Farmer Labor Party video? But I guess I'm going to give, options in case you guys want me to do a different party. But I will say this, because here's the thing right now. I am, as far as I'm aware, finished editing the video. I've got the timeline ready. All that needs to happen is after I dedicate the weekend to exporting this podcast, I will then export it, upload it, and I think I'm going to do something else to the video that'll make it more unique than the previous party history videos. Thankfully, I got a week to get all that done, so be on the lookout for that. I'll keep you updated in case, I don't know, if things don't go right. Knock on wood, hopefully it doesn't happen, but in case it cause it's getting to be a big file, and we're reaching the point where it's starting to slow down, where it's starting to be a little bit iffy. It's not necessarily sometimes when that happens, it can sometimes mean that the file crashes. That happened with the original episode about historical movies, but I think that was because the software wasn't up to date. This also happened with the video about the Pink Tide ranking, but that was of course that one managed to get out, I think, on time. Anyways, with that out of the way, let's get right into the news. First comes an update for the Chilean election, and the first round of the Chilean election has happened, and Jeanette Jara and Jose Cast are the ones that are going to be moving on to the runoff. And one of the things that most people have already gotten worried about is the fact that it seems like Jose Antonio Cast is the one who's probably going to end up winning when the election finally rolls around. He's managed to get the endorsements of multiple of the opposition parties. He got the endorsement of, let's just get into it. He got the endorsement of Johannes Kaiser and Evelyn Matei, both who have above 10% of the vote. Franco Parisi has made it clear that he has no intentions of endorsing in the second round. So the only candidates left that Jeanette Jara can get the endorsements of are Harold May Nichols, Marco Enriquez Omenani, and Eduardo Artes, but combined they got 2% of the vote, so it's not really that much impressive. It's not like it's going to help her in that grand scheme of things. And let's just take a quick glance at the polls after the first round. 61% cast, 61.7% cast, and 55% cast. And there are a lot of people who are desperately trying to figure out, why is Jara not winning? Why are so many people why is Cast basically guaranteed the win? Now let's go over all of the wrong reasons first, because a lot of people have been trying to figure out why is Jara losing, and a lot of people have come to the very wrong conclusions. One of the first conclusions I saw on Twitter was extremely stupid, and it was someone trying to blame the fact that there was only one left-wing candidate on the ballot. Now, technically that's not true. We have MEO and Eduardo Artes, but they basically explained the reason why. They were saying that the reason why is because they all put their eggs into one basket, and that being Jeanette Jara. To which I brilliantly responded with, what in the actual fuck are you talking about? What do you mean? It's a 2-round system. That would have happened regardless. the center-left and the left would have coalesced in the second round anyways. All that happened is that Gerryander just skipped that step because there was no two big-name left-wing candidates. And I point out the fact that in the most objective sense, Gerryander's faction is the bigger one. Like in both senses. Like in the previous election, there were two like coalitions. One was of the main center left parties, and one was of the main like left wing bloc, which was the Communist Party and Frente Amplio. And of those two factions, the Frente Amplio Communist Party coalition was clearly bigger. And then also in the primary, Gerryander won overwhelmingly in the primary, like extremely overwhelmingly. So again, her faction is clearly the biggest faction of the left. Like them coalescing around her makes the most sense. But then some people, then there was like a slight different interpretation of what the person who tweeted that meant, because there's other people like what they meant to say was that they're saying that they shouldn't have backed a communist. That there's no way that a Communist Party candidate would win, and that it was actually they needed to endorse one of the center-left options like Toha, which doesn't make sense in either sense of the word, because like on one end they're trying to say like, oh well, she could appeal to people in the middle. It's like, but there is no middle. What do you mean? There is no middle in Chilean politics. Chilean politics is now basically purely divided between like the hard right and the hard left. That's basically what's going on right now. There is a main center-left faction, and the center-right faction, like the center-right faction purely goes with the right. The center-left faction will always coalesce with the left. They will always team up with their side. There's not going to be any, middle ground. I made that mistake in the past, thinking that there was going to be some people on the center-right that were going to, flip to support Boric just because Cass was too right-wing. But apparently that's just not going to happen. The center-right has basically bent the knee to Jose Antonio Cast. And Gerryander is the one that was the most popular of the candidates, overwhelmingly, of all of them, not just within their coalition, but also beyond their coalition. Gerryander was chosen specifically because she was the most popular of all of the candidates. The good things that happened under Gabriel Boric are accredited to her specifically. Yeah, the Communist Party in Chile is probably considered the most radical of the mainstream parties to an extent. I guess technically Gerryander and Jose Antonio Cast are both part of the extremist parties of the mainstream. So, you get the point. Even though they are still considered fringe, obviously they're not that fringe if they're going to be the leading people in the runoff. But then on the other end, you had people claiming that Gerryander was failing because she was appealing too much to the center-left. So it's okay, both of these people see Gerryander. One of them sees her as conciliatory to the center, and some people see her as not conciliatory to the center. So again, I think at the end of the day, it seems like everyone else is seeing stupid, and Gerryander is being the one who's consistent. If you really want to know why Gerryander isn't winning in the runoff, or isn't polling well enough, or isn't foreseen to be the winner in the runoff, there are two main factors as to why that is. The first one is Gabriel Boric. Sad to say, Gabriel Boric, unfortunately, wasn't that good of a president. I'm sorry, I just gotta be real. I like Gabriel Boric, I think Gabriel Boric was pretty cool, and I was really hyped for his win, but Gabriel Boric just hasn't fulfilled his campaign pledges. His campaign pledge was literally, new constitution, and that will save Chile. Chile will be reborn. That hasn't happened. He tried, it failed. He tried again, it failed. Then he gave up. So he was basically left with trying to basically just be kind of like a Bachelet or a Lagos. And the weird thing is, ironically, Bachelet seems to be the most left-wing of all of the three Chilean left-wing presidents since Allende. And it's ironic because she's not supposed to be. She's the mainstream center-left option, and Gabriel Boric was supposed to be the young, fresh, libertarian socialist. But when push comes to shove, Bachelet just has more to show for her agenda than Boric does. Again, Boric isn't that bad. I did a ranking of him, and he's basically in the mid-tier, and I would still say he's probably one of the better presidents of the world. But even then, he just doesn't have much to show for it. I said if I put him on a tier list, he would rank C. There's no way he can be higher than a C because there's nothing he can show for it. There is another factor that I don't know if I covered it in the previous video, but it's a factor that also I saw people going around. It's oh wait, this could actually be a big thing. Now, let's just go over the turnout rate of the elections. In 2021, the first round of the Chilean presidential election had a 47.33% turnout. Both Cast and Boric got a little over 1 million, I guess a little under 2 million votes. A little under, 1,900,000, 1,800,000, something like that. Now, turnout in the 2025 Chilean election was 85.26, with both Jara and Cast getting a little over 3 million votes each. Now, on a first glance, you'll say, wow, that's interesting. People seem to be really invested in the election. No, it's because Gabriel Boric reintroduced mandatory voting during his presidential tenure. And a lot of people point out that it seems that a lot of Chileans are actually just more consistently right-wing on a lot of issues than they give credit to. So in an ironic twist, Gabriel Boric trying to do a good thing might have actually led to bad things to happen. The next news story is going to be covering the quote-unquote Gen Z protests in Mexico, because it happened, and I was just like, it kind of happened a little bit in the last episode, like last week, I think, and it kind of became a lot more prevalent like this time, and it's like, I might as well talk about it because, I know a thing or two about Mexican politics, so, hey, why not talk about it? I'm sure you guys would probably be curious to see, how I view the Mexican Gen Z protests. Man, I sure would. If only Gen Z protests actually happened, because here's what actually happened, for those who don't know. Okay, so, I covered this news story a little bit ago. I think I might have covered it in the last episode, or the episode before that, but, there was a mayor in a city of Mexico named Carlos Manzo. He was assassinated, and, a lot of people are getting a bit interested, a little bit like, oh, okay, what's going on? We gotta figure something out. And sure enough, that led to protests against Claudia Sheinbaum, and, perceiving that she is too soft on crime, or whatever the fuck, oh, she's controlled by narco state, whatever. The idea of protests happening under this, due to this situation isn't too surprising. The only thing that was surprising was that it kept getting associated with the quote-unquote Gen Z protests. For those who don't know, a Gen Z protest were a protest by a lot of Gen Zers, people in Generation Z, all around the world for various reasons. But most of them centered around the same broad tenets, anti-corruption, freedom of expression, anti-authoritarianism, they kind of most of them are kind of focused on global South countries, or I guess they would count places like Nepal, I think the Philippines, a couple of other countries in that area. The Madagascar protests were considered part, the Madagascar protests. Yeah, that's the one where I kind of first really got associated. No, I guess that would be the Nepal ones that were the first introduction to the Gen Z protest. But yeah, you get the broad point. And many people were associating these protests in Mexico with the Gen Z protests. Big one being that there were people who were posting, they were people with shirts and flags of Luffy's flag in One Piece. Which has been a common symbol of these Gen Z anti-authoritarianism protests. And that was one of the first, ironically, it was a red flag to figure out why this was a bit weird. Because these kinds of protests, Luffy's flag and Luffy's symbolism doesn't make sense for what these people are protesting for. You see, these people are protesting for more government authority. They're protesting for more government oversight. They're protesting for increased military. They're protesting for lack of a term, they are protesting in favor of authoritarianism. If Claudia Sheinbaum was really harsh on crime and then they were protesting against it, that would make sense with these associations, but it just doesn't make any sense. And then people and all these accounts, these prominent right-wing accounts on Twitter just kept posting about it. I think it was that Visa Guard account. They posted about it. Then there was this account called I think it's called literally National Security News that posted a picture of the Luffy flag, and it's all of the parties in Mexico crossed out and saying on this day, blah blah blah. And then there are also some things that they would say that would just don't make any sense. Like, for example, one big one was, again, calling it Gen Z protests, and then literally every single footage of these protests, not a single member of Generation Z is there. Even to the point where former President Vicente Fox was literally showing up to these protests wearing a Luffy shirt, and it's just like, yeah, sure, buddy. And it doesn't even make any sense, because again, like, this is one, and this is another weird thing, because, like, it's like the common lie that everyone says. Like, it's like, oh, the narco party, everyone knows the drug cartels are the ones who really control Mexico and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. But it's like, the drug cartels, bought and paid for Vicente Fox and Felipe Calderon's presidencies. And now these are the people who are protesting against, like Claudia Sheinbaum. So it's like, it don't make no sense. And then one thing that was a flat-out lie was literally them saying that these protests were, quote, the biggest protests in Mexican... Like, literally, I saw that. It was like, these are the biggest protests in Mexican history. And it's like, that's just not true. Literally, it's just like, it's super funny that this was happening while I was editing the fucking, like, PRD video. Because, like, literally, it's like, it says, like, oh, these protests have, like, were the biggest ones in Mexican history. It's like, these protests have capped at, like, 20,000 people. Like, literally, it's like, some places had 17,000, some places had 10,000, some places had 20,000. Meanwhile, in 2006, there was a massive protest in Mexico City in favor of AMLO that literally had, like, over 1 million people. So clearly, again, you're lying. And it didn't take long for people to figure out that this is clearly just an AstroTurf campaign launched by a lot of, like, think tanks in America and, like, other places. Like, for example, like, some of the quote-unquote, like, on-the-ground activists who are leading these marches are found out to have been taking money from the PAN, Mexico's main right-wing party. And then also, research has been done to show that 179 TikTok accounts promoting the march were created, like, very recent. A lot of them were created very recently. So it's just, like, fucking hilarious. Next news story is coming from the UK, and the fact that I just gotta say it. I think your party might be ending. I don't know, because there's a bit of a problem with your party, because for those who don't know, your party is the political group in the UK that Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana have been starting, and it's been having a rough patch for basically the entirety of its existence. First of all, Corbyn basically had to be pushed into creating it by Zara Sultana. Then came that controversy surrounding, like, Zara Sultana launching an email list and membership list without the permission of any of the other members of the coalition. Then came the controversy surrounding a couple of the members of the coalition not necessarily living up to the expectations that Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana are. Because, like, it's a coalition of Corbyn, Sultana, and, like, 4 Arab MPs that got elected in the last UK election. The only one that's relevant to this story, like, I mean, I guess I'll only mention 2 of them, Adnan Hussein and Ibkal Mohammed, because those 2 are the ones that are leading the biggest controversies currently with the coalition. And it's because of one big question, because, like, this is the thing. All the members of the Independent Alliance now turned your party. They joined together, and they were all basically united under one goal, pro-Palestine. Basically, that was their one major issue. They have, like, agreements on, like, some other issues, like, I think it was, like, the 2-child cap that happened, and they were supportive of that. Or, like, whatever the side of the issue they were on the same side as Corbyn and Sultana. But things are finally reaching a head, because one of the big things that is interesting about all these Arab MPs is the fact that they are pretty somewhat socially conservative in regards to, like, at least Adnan and Iqbal. Well, okay, there's actually, like, there's an article out there. I must see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, I found it, and it's basically goes over, like, how each of these MPs are on, like, LGBTQ issues. Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana are obviously extremely supportive of the LGBTQ community. We've gone over in the past Adnan Hussein's obviously extremely right-wing beliefs on regards to these social issues. Ayub Khan basically said, like, he says this because, like, as a religious person, as a Muslim, he's like, my opinion's pretty obvious. But he basically gave the implication that, like, he won't enforce that on people. Shakat Adam. Basically, he gave like a tepid endorsement of like LGBTQ rights. He also very similarly had like some socially conservative views in regards to marriage and like abortion stuff. He voted against an abortion bill amendment that would have decriminalized abortion after 24 weeks, and basically, like, similar to the rest of the era of them, like, Muslim MPs in this coalition, they keep getting asked questions about their beliefs on LGBTQ rights, and they keep giving answers that the LGBTQ community does not want to hear, so, and these guys are getting mad. Iqbal's statement was basically along the lines of, like, I'm being attacked so much for my beliefs, I'm, like, facing all these, like, smears and whatever, and it's like, what are these smears? Are these smears, like, actual, like, and this is the big thing that a lot of people are really kind of like getting infuriated by with this particular thing. And it's the fact that these guys seem very much like, oh, why is everyone being so mean to us? We're Muslim. We have to blah, 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 blah. But then when it comes to these other minority groups, they don't care. They don't want to care. They don't like, they're like, no. I literally even went so far as to try and address Adnan Hussein directly on Twitter. We're basically saying, like, how would you feel if someone said basically any of the stuff that you're saying about trans people right now to you? And I'm just going to be completely blunt. If they don't bend the knee, then they don't get to be part of the gang. Like, I'm sorry. Like, they're acting like it's like, oh, you're losing a big... Iqbal, you won because of a fluke. No one gives a shit about you. No one gives a shit about you. They gave a shit about Corbyn and Sultana. You guys should be lucky that you're even being included in the talks. Like, Iqbal especially is just kind of, like, really infuriating on this particular issue. It's just like, dude, you're literally on the record defending marriages between cousins. That's true. In December 2024, Conservative MP Richard Holden submitted a 10-minute bill to ban marriages between first cousins. Muhammad argued against the bill, stating that the ban would be ineffective. Like, bro, and you're gonna sit here and lecture us about, like, what's, like, moral? Fuck off. Your fucking fake sky daddy is, like, he's not real. Like, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit, you fucking losers. Like, oh, but you're being offensive to their beliefs. Fuck off. I don't care. If your religious beliefs lead to discrimination of people, then, yeah, you can go fuck yourself. I don't fucking care. Dark woke forever. Now, next story, let's move on to some good news stories. Okay, first good news story is that a federal court has banned Texas from using the Republican-friendly U.S. House map in the midterms. A Trump-appointed judge basically just argued against there being Republican maps, like the Republican-made maps for the upcoming midterms that were going to be, quote-unquote, allegedly favorable to Republicans. But again, even then, those were apparently based on faulty numbers because of a fluke that happened in one election year. Like, for real, learning that was the thing that literally started this all, that Trump saw, like, a 1% increase of vote turnout among young Latino males and then based his entire strategy of basically rigging the next election on that, that's so fucking funny. And the fact of the matter is that it didn't even work. Now, technically, they can fight it in court again. Yeah, you know, these kind of redistricting battles can always be fought in court very often. But people were pointing out the fact that it's a little too late. Not necessarily too late that they can't fight it, but that the ballot deadline is getting close. It's getting pretty close, so there's not like a lot of time to really build up a case to do that. And this is apparently kickstarting some other court battles, because I think Indiana is currently in the midst of like trying to do something, but I think it was like ended like at the last minute. And North Carolina is also currently in talks about their possible like maps. Like apparently like they basically agreed that the 2024 maps that North Carolina had are perfectly legal, but they're currently still in talks about what to do in regards to the maps that the Republicans literally just passed, which would be even less fair for the Democrats. So there's a good chance that they're going to have to be forced to revoke that as well. And it's just, wow. It's like, that's just fucking funny. And in a similar vein, another W is the Epstein file release. Now, there is asterisks to this W. We have to still keep pushing harder for the eventual full release of the Epstein files, because like there have been a lot of like talks about like trying to like make these less thing. But like, here's the thing that people don't realize. Like, the plan was obviously very simple. The plan was Trump was gonna the plan was the House would vote for it, and then Clay Higgins, I guess, would be the sacrificial lamb for the pro-pedophilia caucus in the GOP. But like they would basically allow for that to happen so that it would go to the Senate and then be negotiated on and possibly watered down. But then in a magic turn of events, the Senate just unanimously voted to support the release. And then Trump quietly signed them. And I mean, currently Pam Bondi is trying to do if there's they're doing some asterisks to try and water it down a little bit. But also the fact of the matter is, we know what should be in the files. We know, they basically made it abundantly clear. We know the stuff that is supposed to be in the files. It's there's explicitly there's supposed to be 13,000 files or whatever. And then as Massey and Rokana pointed out, the Epstein files, the bill for the Epstein files release literally already had all the protections that they kept claiming they wanted. It's yeah, of course we're not going to release the files of videos of Epstein and his clients doing certain things, and the only names that will be redacted from the files will be the names of the victims. Those are the only names that will be redacted. So it'll be Donald Trump had sexual relations with blank, a 13-year-old victim. It would say something like that. That's what it would say. And then Massey and Marjorie Greene basically announced almost immediately afterwards hey, but if they try to do anything about it, we're just gonna read the names anyways, because most of the House apparently already knows, because I've been seeing videos of literally tons of members of Congress literally just being hey, I read these files and yeah, these are pretty fucking damning files for Donald Trump. And remember, because some people are trying to be doomeristic a little bit, but guys, remember, the files were never going to be released initially. Literally, the files were never supposed to be released. Donald Trump literally announced off the blue, randomly, just oh yeah, we're just not going to release the files anymore. The files, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing in the files anymore. Jeffrey Epstein killed himself, and there's no victim files, and there's no client list. Oh well, sorry guys. And then magically, we had this almost year-long battle. You really think that they're not going to do any more afterwards? You think that they're just going to stop it? You think afterwards, Donald Trump will just announce, oh yeah, we're going to water down the files, and then Massey, Kana, and whoever else will just be oh well, I guess that's it. No, they're going to keep pushing. At this point, there's no reason to stop. Ro Khanna is in a deep blue seat and is basically guaranteed to win no matter what. And Thomas Massey, he's basically effed if he does, effed if he doesn't. He's basically already on Trump's radar to be primaried. So it's there's nothing, there's no reason for him to stop now. And it seems that a lot of these compounding factors have led to one of the biggest things that is super interesting, and it's the fact that Marjorie Taylor Greene has announced that she will resign from the House of Representatives. Not retire, she's not running for re-election. She's announced that she's full on retiring, she will resign from the House of Representatives on January 5th of 2026. And there are a lot of things people point out about that. And one of the first thing that I was going to point out is a selfish reason. Apparently she gets a bit of a bonus if she stays in office at least until January 3rd of 2026. So, of course she's going to stick around for a little bit longer than that just so she can get that money. But they also point out the fact that the Republicans already have a pretty slim majority, and now they're going to be losing Marjorie Taylor Greene, so that slim majority is going to become even more slim. Similar to I think there was another guy, there was an anti-Trump Republican that did the same thing a while ago. And this, to me, truly shows, I had this feeling almost immediately when it happened. I had this feeling beforehand. You saw my couple previous videos, my previous podcast. You've been seeing that I've already been indicating that the MAGA movement and the Republican movement, the MAGA Trump movement, is already fading away. It's already losing momentum. And it seems like it is officially died. Basically, this is it in hospice care at this point. And, this specific resignation is specifically emblematic of it. And this is extremely important. Like, I mean, some people, like, I mean, we just gotta acknowledge this. This specific resignation is extremely important and really shows how the MAGA movement is dying and or officially dead at this point. Because who is Marjorie Taylor Greene? Marjorie Taylor Greene was the woman who got elected under a platform of explicitly supporting the QAnon conspiracy theory, the theory that posited that Donald Trump was literally like basically the savior of the United States. And he would, like, literally, again, I have an old ass video about QAnon, but like, remember, QAnon conspiracism is fucking insane. Like, QAnon isn't just like, oh, you know, she just believes in some right-wing, like, beliefs. No. QAnon literally believes that Donald Trump would, like, literally believe that Donald Trump was literally going to basically take over the United States, run a cabal, and then become, like, the 15th president of the United States because he would do a soft reboot of the United States. That the Kennedys were going to come back from the dead to endorse him. That COVID was, like, secretly, like, an op to try and control the world. Like, she believed in all of that. And the heart of the theory was that Donald Trump was like the savior of the world. Like, she wasn't like Ted Cruz posturing about the MAGA movement nowadays. She wasn't like Josh Hawley. She wasn't like any, like, even like the people who were elected under, like, I guess, quote unquote, MAGA movement in like the 2018 midterms. They were just people who were just kind of believing, like, just like buying, just jumping on like a trend of like a political thing. No. Marjorie Taylor Greene was a true believer in the cause. But that's the difference between, like, various forms of fascism. Like, you know, most fascists don't believe any of the shit they tell you. They don't believe a single fucking word they tell you. Donald Trump, I don't believe Donald Trump believes a single word that he has ever said in regards to anything of his platform. He just says it because he knows that his audience doesn't give a shit. Like, I mean, he might have, like, believed, like, some small elements of it here and there at the beginning, but, like, at this point, he just says shit to just say shit. Like, most fascists who are at least at the tip top of the fascist movements, they don't believe that. It's the underlings that are supposed to believe the propaganda that the top guy says. And Marjorie Taylor Greene was that person. Her first act in Congress was essentially trying to bring the storm, the thing that QAnoners believed would, like, be the end of the, like evil cabal of, like, Satanists running the United States. Like, that was her first act in Congress. Remember, she, like, trying to, like, overthrow the fucking, like, 2020 election. She basically enabled death threats to her Democratic opponent, claiming that he was, like, some, like, evil satanic pedophile, and ruined his life. She's been censured multiple times for, like, pushing for violence against her Democratic opponents, and there's big of course, in her mind, she believes that, because she literally believes she's on the right side of history. She literally believes that, like, there's the evil satanic cabal of pedophiles and Donald Trump's trying to stop them. And literally, that's why she believed all that shit that she said. That's why she harassed, like, school shooting victims, because she literally believed, like, oh, they're actually secretly part of, like, the evil cabal's plan. So of course she's gonna put all of her effort. Like, she literally believes that Donald Trump is right on everything and that he could do no wrong. And so she bent the knee and did things for the Trump administration that even it seems like it would be against her principles. And one of the biggest ones, to me, was the first indication that something was wrong, was, like, the speakership vote that happened in 2023. Like, remember when all those Republicans were, like, saying, like, oh, like, you know, a bunch of them were, like, getting, like, oh, we gotta get rid of these fucking, like, stupid, like, Republican establishment people, gotta replace them with, like, a real American first MAGA person. I was very shocked to find out that Marjorie Taylor Greene was not in line with these people. But it wasn't until I remembered, oh yeah, it's because Donald Trump basically just said, like, right before the election, like, yeah, I think we should just elect the Republican speaker. I think we should just do that. That would be the better solution. And that led to her getting into, like get angry and, like, oppose people who she originally were at one point friends with. Like, her and Lauren Boebert fucking hate each other now. Like, they absolutely hate each other now. They used to be buddy. They used to be, like, the two, like, oh, we're the QAnon congresswomen. And there's, like, a very famous picture of her with Matt Rosendale, a person who she was also pretty closely affiliated with. And then Matt Rosendale, like, literally, she's holding a phone that has Trump on it. Like literally, like, she's on the phone with Trump trying to get them to change their mind. And Matt Rosendale's literally, like, basically, like, I forget the photo, but, like, he's basically, like, you know, denying it. Like, no, I'm not listening to this. I guarantee you that if Donald Trump didn't make that call, she would have been right with them doing the exact same thing. But since God Emperor Donald Trump called, she made the decision to back what Donald Trump said. And she saw how things played out. since Matt Rosendale didn't bend the knee to Donald Trump, when Matt Rosendale announced his Senate bid, he basically got snubbed by Donald Trump, who endorsed one of his opponents, and then it basically ruined Matt Rosendale's career, despite the fact that Matt Rosendale had basically been trying to paint himself as like, I am the true MAGA. And that's the thing. All of these fucking loser Republicans keep doing the same thing. They paint themselves like they are the true MAGA. They are the true MAGA. They are the true MAGA. They're like, we are the next person in line with Donald Trump. But the thing is, again, most of them are grifters. Most of them are lying. Basically, every single Republican who does this is a person who's already had a pretty long career in politics prior to Donald Trump getting involved in the Republican Party. Meanwhile, Marjorie Taylor Greene, her whole career in this field is specifically because of Donald Trump. She was inspired by him. She based her entire ideology on him. She was really a true believer. And as such, she felt like, due to the fact that she's a true believer, she would be rewarded for her efforts. Because that's how you feel. That's how people feel. You believe like if you do everything right, you do everything by the books, you do everything exactly what you're supposed to do, then you'll be rewarded for your efforts. And this all came to a head in the most recent Senate election in Georgia, where Marjorie Taylor Greene basically announced, hey, I'm interested in running for the Georgia Senate seat. And then Donald Trump basically told her, no, you're not running in that Senate seat. He just flat out said no, basically paving the way for Mike Collins to basically be the de facto MAGA candidate. And I think, and it really seems like that was the thing that finally made her go, wait, hold on. It was all purely for selfish reasons. Like, she might have, she rarely ever opposed anything Donald Trump did. Like, she literally led an effort to censure Rashida Tlaib for supporting the idea of not getting involved in Israel's war and, like, ending, like, arms to Israel. And, like, how dare you do that, you fucking terrorist scum? But then, magically, during this most recent term, after she gets snubbed for the Senate nomination, magically, she's like, oh, we need to get out of these, like, foreign regime change wars. American first foreign policy doesn't mean giving aid to Israel when they massacre Christians. It's like, hold on, wait a second, what happened? What happened there? Like, again, magically, she suddenly has a change of heart. All of a sudden, like, despite the fact that she was endorsed by AIPAC at one point, magically she's like, oh, I don't want to support AIPAC. I don't want to be supported by AIPAC no more. I don't like AIPAC. I don't take any money from AIPAC. They may have endorsed me one time, but I didn't take no money. I could be completely wrong, but I remember she was endorsed by AIPAC at one point. But, like, the point is, again, she has this magic shift now. And also came another thing, like, because there is one more thing that I have to acknowledge about this. Remember, as I said before, Marjorie Taylor Greene was a true believer. And one of the big things that a lot of these far-right conspiracy theorists love to do, for some reason, was they always love to talk about Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein was one of their, like, golden gooses, I guess. Like, many of the original QAnon conspiracy theories really do tie into Epstein. Like, because, like, I think there's, like, I only remember this because there's, like, a fucking, like, a meme video I saw where it's, like, a Ren and Stimpy parody of QAnon, where it's, like, where Ren is like, look, even they predict the arrest of Jeffrey Epstein. And, like, no shit that Jeffrey Epstein would get mentioned in these QAnon conspiracy theories. Because, like, look, if your beliefs, if your, like, conspiracy theory is literally, like, the world is run by satanic pedophiles, then, you know, you'd probably point to the one that's, like, very objectively been proven to be a fucking pedophile who's, like, tied to many elites. And again, like, Donald Trump never once believed in releasing the Epstein files. Why would he? He's obviously in them. He's obviously in them. He did this. He is the one that the one that he keeps complaining about. Like, the one that QAnon people keep complaining about. He is them. He's the elite that they're complaining about. But Marjorie Taylor Greene, she is a true believer. So she genuinely wanted to get the Epstein files out. Like, I mean, she probably believed in Pizzagate. She probably wanted to, like, actually free the kids. Like, she literally genuinely believes that these things are true. She's, again, a true believer. And seeing, again, Donald Trump, you know, allegedly promised that he was going to release the Epstein files. Like, because literally, like, everyone, like, conservatives are, like, trying to pretend, like, oh, this wasn't a campaign promise. Like, yeah, this wasn't, like, an official campaign promise. Like, it wasn't, like, on the website, like, when I get into office, I'm going to release the Epstein files. But, like, when he would go on interviews, they'd be like, hey, dude, what about these Epstein files? It's like, yeah, I'll release them. He said that. He explicitly said that. Much in the same way he also explicitly said that he was going to strike Iran, and magically these guys just don't remember. Like, this is the problem with the MAGA people. They're too stupid. They don't understand the fact, like, Trump says a thing explicitly, and then it's like, they don't, but regardless, she's a true believer. As such, she actually wanted to release the Epstein files. And then she sees God Emperor Trump, the guy who literally was in every single conspiracy theory she read, every single thing, was trying to fight against the evil satanic pedophiles. Now magically, all of a sudden, he's on their side. He's defending them. Like, in her mind, she sees it as a turncoat. But maybe after a while, she realizes there was no turncoat. He was always on their side. Like, that's the thing. Like, I think she's probably the closest thing we're ever going to get to MAGA officially admitting they were wrong and they were lied to and they were duped and they were stupid. And another thing that happened because of this is because Marjorie Greene basically announced, she literally announced, during, a thing where it's like Donald Trump basically announced that he was unendorsing Marjorie Taylor Greene, that he was going to do everything in his power to make sure that she doesn't get back into Congress. And then magically, she started getting a ton of death threats by a ton of conservatives and MAGA people. Like, she was getting death threats by them because now she is part of the enemy. And that's probably the thing that really broke her. Because as I've said before, she did everything right to, quote unquote, right in her movement. She's done so much for the MAGA movement. And now, the second she says, I'm going to do the thing that we promised that we were going to do, now all of a sudden, she's persona non grata. Look, and I fucking love it. I love this. I love that Marjorie Taylor Greene has officially figured out, holy fuck, I wasted so much of my fucking time on this. Time that she's never getting back. She's wasted years of her life on this shit. And all that happened was that she got fucking old and divorced. That's what happened because of all this shit. She got old, she got divorced, and now she's gonna go into fucking retirement and be a nobody. That's what she got out of all this. And she's basically explicitly said, she literally thinks that Dems are gonna win the next election and Donald Trump's finally gonna get impeached. And at this point, I actually think that might be possible. At this point, I actually genuinely think that there's a chance that if they impeach him again, he might actually get impeached this time. Because it's the same thing with the Epstein files. It's like, this is the chance. This is the last chance the Republican Party has to get rid of him. When the Epstein files get released, no matter how the Epstein files get released, it's over. Either Donald Trump's in them, and it's very obvious, or Donald Trump is obviously redacted from them, and it becomes obvious, or he tries to stop the release, and then he gets caught. Again, no road leads to him doing this. That's why the MAGA movement has been trying desperately to be third term, please? It's clearly not even working. They can't even get their fucking, gerrymandered districts in charge. It's fucking so fucking hilarious. There's a chance that literally, the Republican Party officially just decides, the only way out is if we just officially sabotage. That was the same thing with, the Epstein files. When they just unanimously said, yeah, we're releasing the Epstein files. They just unanimously said, yeah, we'll do it. When the Senate did that. And then the House, the Republicans basically, there might even be a chance that maybe Trump is doing this intentionally. Maybe he actually is doing this intentionally. Maybe he's just doing this so that he can give Vance, at least 2 more years to do shit. But either way, yeah. It's just fucking hilarious, and I love seeing this. It's over for them. The left is getting so much more united and focused, while the MAGA movement is basically completely crumbling before our very eyes. Rip bozos. Anyways, with that out of the way, let's move on to, I don't know if this would necessarily be considered the main topic of this video at this point because of all the stories that I've said up to this point, but I can't delay this episode any further, so we have to talk about this topic now. And it is the 2025 Honduras election. They are going to be held in 6 days out of the time this episode comes out. Why did I wait so long to release this episode? Well, it's because of one big thing that happened, but first let's get into the bit of the prelude. Okay, so I've covered this in a previous episode. I covered the previous election of Honduras in a different podcast episode, and in that one we went over the details of the things that happened prior. So we just had to do a quick a recap. In 2009, a little bit prior to that, 2006 I believe, or 2007, Manuel Zelaya got elected. He was elected under a center right or center broadly centrist political party, and he was like, haha, I tricked you all. I am actually secretly a pretty far left guy, and I'm going to do so much good things for Honduras. And then magically the opposition decided to coup him, and, well, there was a long-standing tenure of conservatism that reigned in Honduras for a while, and in fact, it was very illegal. Like, not only with the initial coup, but like literally a thing that happened was, like, one of the big things that people said was that Manuel Zelaya was like, I'm going to launch a new constitution for the country, and a lot of people allege that he was actually secretly trying to make it so that the constitution would allow for term limits to be abolished in his term, so they have to stop him. And then, immediately afterwards, the conservatives said, hey, wouldn't it be funny if we abolished term limits anyways? And sure enough, that's what they did. But then in the last election, there was a major upset, and the left-wing candidates actually managed to win. Or at least that's what I kind of tell myself, because that's why I waited so long for this episode, because apparently I covered that country at that time because I was like, I needed a slot to fill for the podcast, and I was like, hey, this election's coming up, and this is basically going to be like a sadly nothing burger election, so I'm just going to cover that and just go over that. And I got the prediction completely wrong, because the only poll that was around at the time showed the conservative winning, but then after that episode came out, there were like one or two more polls that came out afterwards that showed the left-wing candidate winning. So, again, why wait a little bit this time around? There are no more polls. I got all the polls that I need for the election, so there can't be a major screw up on that one. Well, there might be, but we'll have to get to that in a second. But the person who ended up winning in that election was Xiomara Castro, Manuel Zelaya's wife, who in her inaugural address made it pretty clear what she wanted to do. Quote, on this historic day, I will inform the nation about the social and economic tragedy that Honduras faces and about my proposal for the refoundation of the socialist and democratic state. Like, that was her goal. Her goal was to transition Honduras from a capitalist state to a democratic socialist state. Did she end up doing that? Not necessarily. To bring it up again, my ranking of pink tide leaders, she ranks in the top 10. Like, she ended up getting in the top 10 pretty fast because she did a lot of pretty good things. You know, she decreased the homicide rate by 28%. She took action against Israel due to their actions in Gaza. Basically gave free electricity to the poorest people of the nation. The broadly good things, but she did good. Yeah, she did fine, and I think she did pretty well. I said the same thing multiple times, but you get my point. She did pretty good, and yeah, she didn't succeed necessarily. She did it as much as you can in a liberal democracy to an extent, but again, I guess technically she failed, but I'll take her failure over a person like Gabriel Boric's failure. But yeah, that's pretty much the prelude of this election. Well, the prelude that's at least relevant to the current administration and seeing how things are going. So let's go into some issues. The three main issues of this election are the economy, security, and corruption. Three issues that kind of prop up every now and then in Latin American politics, but have kind of maintained to an extent. The economy, I think, is just general, just the economy is just an issue that always gets focused on. Security was a bit of an issue, but again, she did decrease the homicide rate by 20%, but people argue, is this enough to lower the crime rate? Should we lower it more? And there are other people who argue that, maybe they should try different routes that could possibly go things even further. And corruption is one issue that has always been a main focus for Honduras, especially for a while. One thing that happened during the, one thing that did show, just how corrupt the nation's courts was that during one of her predecessors, the guy who basically helped lead the coup and ended up becoming the conservative torchbearer for a while, I think illegally for 2 terms. I think it was the guy who did it for 2 terms. Yeah, it had to be him. I don't think there was another president at the time. But the point is, he was accused of tons of corruption, but when she arrested him and then immediately sent him to the United States to get a trial because she literally could not trust the courts in her own country because they were still so corrupt. Like, she just got in. Like, she's like, I literally just got in. I can't really do anything at this moment. We have to reform the system first, and then we can possibly do something about it. And let's move on to the parties/candidates in the election. And there are 5 candidates in the election, and it's actually a pretty wide variety of ideological division in the election. I would say that Honduras is pretty broadly represented. Like, if you're a person on the political spectrum, you're probably going to get represented by at least one of the parties that I'm going to mention. Now, Honduras used to have a lot more parties, but certain things happened that made the list of candidates and parties kind of shrink a little bit, but we'll get into that later. But first, let's get into the 5 people who managed to make it on the ballot. The first candidate is Nelson Avila, an economist and 2-time failed presidential primary candidate, who is running with the party called the Innovation and Unity Party, which is a center-left social democratic party. Not really much to say about him. He's just kind of like the broad, center-left guy, I guess. Like, he represents, his faction of, the broadly, center-left, social democratic policies. The next candidate is Mario Rivera, a publicist and businessman who is running with the Christian Democratic Party. As the name implies, it is a Christian Democratic Party, which broadly represents, the center-right-ish faction. Now, what's interesting about him is kind of, his platform, because his platform, I mean, there's probably, a lot more to his platform that I can't find, but his main campaign slogan and his main, I'll just get into it. His main campaign slogan is Unámonos a los gringos. With that, referencing the fact that his plan for the upcoming election is, his main policy plank is to turn Honduras from an independent nation into a territory of the United States of America. I appreciate the fact that a lot of conservatives in Latin America are just being completely obvious at this point. Much in the same way there's this Colombian mayor that just wears a MAGA hat. It's they're just at least abundant. Back in the day, conservatives in Latin America, they used to pretend that they were no, we're not just puppets of the United States of America, but now they just admit it. At the same thing with Mexico, earlier, with that Mexican, AstroTurf campaign, literally before that, the Mexican right wing just openly said, yeah, we need America to invade Mexico and take us. Marina Machado, they're just being honest at this point. They used to hide it, but now they're at least being honest. I appreciate it. But those two are basically nobody candidates. The race has basically truly boiled down to a 3-person race. The first candidate of this above tier is Nasri Tito Asfuera, a businessman and the 2023 presidential runner-up. He is currently running with the National Party, a conservative political party, which, broadly represents, it's the party that, overthrew Zelaya in the coup, and, it's, broadly, the right mainstream conservative party. And much like the other conservative in the race, he also has a very strange campaign slogan, which is, I shit you not, Daddy at your service. I'm not kidding, that's actually true apparently. His major platform planks include attracting private investment into the economy, even going so far as to state that he kind of wants to work. I don't even know necessarily if he wants to work with the United States, but basically his plan is that he wants for all the Honduran immigrants who left to America, once they get deported back, he wants to give them, he wants to use them to help bolster the economy of the country. He wants to push harder for trade deals with the United States, and he wants to break the relationship with China in favor of Taiwan, because they used to have a relationship with Taiwan, the country used to have a relationship with Taiwan as opposed to China, but Xiomara Castro changed that. Speaking of, the next candidate in the race is Rixi Monsada, a cabinet minister to Xiomara Castro, running with the Liberty and Refoundation Party, also known as Libre, which is the mainstream left-wing party that was created by Zelaya after he was couped to basically say, you know what, it's better. Basically, I guess, the DSA dirty break strategy, but official. The platform includes, her platform is basically continue Xiomara's economic agenda, democratize the tax system, and expand credit access to people. And the last candidate in this field is Salvador Nasrallah, the former first vice president in Honduras. You are given 3 vice presidents, like every presidential candidate has 3 running mates, who was also a 3-time presidential candidate. And what's funny is Nasrallah is a very, very odd candidate. Like, he has a very strange political career. Like, he started his political career by creating a small centrist party called the Anti-Corruption Party, which was basically like, a centrist party broadly focused on anti-corruption. And he ran for that party's nomination and, did as well as he could with that in 2013. Then, somehow in 2017, he was able to convince the Libre parties and the Innovation and Unity parties, the 2 left-wing parties, to back him. Like, basically tell them, like, don't run candidates, endorse my candidacy, run like a united bloc. I think the bloc was called like the Pact Against the Dictatorship or something like that. And that was basically like the main drive of it. Like, like the center, like the conservative parties were, of course, illegally controlling the country, trying to do like they broke the term limits, and they again, they broke the term limit, and then they did the coup. So, well, I guess reverse that order, but you get my point. So it was like, hey, the best course of action for us to combat this authoritarian regime is for us to coalesce together and team up. But then after that coalition failed, he announced that he was going to be forming a new political party called the Savior Party of Honduras, which was basically going to be a new centrist populist party, and he intended to run as their candidate in the 2021 presidential election. But then afterwards, he withdrew his bid to become Xiomara Castro's running mate. He basically said, I'll drop out if you give me the first slot of the VP nominations. And that she did, and he ended up going through. But then he resigned from the position at some point during the administration. I don't really know for what. I guess presumably to gear up for this presidential bid. And the party that he is currently running with now is the Liberal Party, which is the mainstream liberal centrist party of Honduras. The party that Manuel Zelaya basically tricked people into thinking that he was in support of and in alignment with. And while Nasrallah has a 100-point platform, the only ones of note that I could really find, that I could translate, or at least were on English sites, were he wants to stimulate investment in the economy to create jobs, he wants to decentralize the government, promote tourism, push for massive infrastructure projects, and then also push for a Nayib Bukele security model. So, I guess he really is trying to paint himself as a radical centrist in these time periods. So, what's the main issue? What are some events that happened in the election? There are only 2 major events-ish that I could find that are of note, but I think they're interesting to note. Okay, so apparently there was a lawsuit that accused Rixi of terrorism, and the lawsuit was that an American businessman named Murray Farmer accused her because she refused to pay him money that the Honduran government owed him for developments that he did in the aftermath of Hurricane Mitch. The rebuttal being the fact that the company he works for is accused by the Honduran state of committing massive fraud. So that's basically it. That's basically it. So I don't know where the terrorism came in, but whatever. I guess that's just the accusation. But the biggest issue that is boiling around this election is an issue that is actually probably the literal most important issue of the election. And that issue, it's not in the issues that I mentioned prior, but the issue that really seems to be the forefront issue of this election is really if the election is valid, which all really revolves around the leader of the National Electoral Council of Honduras, Caset Lopez, who is a member of the National Party. That's important. So basically, here's what happened. the election council in the nation fought over how the primaries that should be done of the three main parties, how the primaries should be done and how to approach it. Now, the first issue that arose was like typically in Honduras, you have to submit paperwork to do the primaries, but also the parties that were simply just going to nominate candidates also had to submit paperwork the same day of the primaries. And the leader of the CNE, Casa Lopez, basically said that she was going to extend the deadline, but then that led to a debate of how this would lead into the election calendar. Like, would delaying this lead to a delayed election? And they debated for a bit. That issue seemingly got sorted, but then came an issue on June 6th of this year, when the CNE passed a law that says before the final results get published, the three major parties can review the results and, quote, correct any mistakes, which was a similar process that happened in the 2017 elections. Elections that Libre claim were fraudulent. Like, it almost seems like a similar situation to like how, like in America, they had that whole like, what was it, the election? Like Rutherford Hayes election, where it was like both parties submitted two different like electoral college slates. It basically seemed like that was like building up to that. So after some debate, it was scrapped. You know, whatever. But every time they now mention this, they now mention that the results will be published without correction, which now opens the door to people to be like, wait, hold on. Well, what if the results aren't right? So if the results are completely wrong, then there will be no corrections at all whatsoever? And then the last major thing that happened in regards to like the validity of the election is on October 29th, when Libre released a recording from Lopez, which allegedly says that she was having a plan, she was initiating a plan for a massive electoral boycott among her party, so that, quote, no serious candidates can declare victory at noon, and before the electoral observers come, denounce the results so that you can sow doubt among people before they even really, do anything to look at it. Even claiming that, quote, the military is with us. These allegations got so bad that it led to Xiomara Castro to conduct an investigation in the military to look for the alleged subversives. However, Lopez alleges that these calls are 100% faked and are AI generated purely by Libre to sow doubts in the upcoming election. So basically, again, from what I'm seeing, it seems like every single person, all three parties, are having some issues about claiming validity and issues regarding the elections. Now let's go to polling. Polls are actually pretty mixed in this race. First, we can acknowledge, Rivera and Avila non-factors. No one gives a shit about them. But otherwise, it's actually a pretty close race between Nasrallah, Rixi, and Tito. All three of them being projected to be the winner at least once, usually by less than 5 points. There are 8 outliers in the results, 2 massive outliers being 2 polls that have Rixi winning by over 20 points, but the person who is projected to win the most is Nasrallah, who is winning in 23 of the polls. Rixi is winning in 5 of the polls, Tito is winning in 6. And let's just do a quick glance at the Spanish wiki, just so I can tell you, like, literally how it is. Like, I'll just say the front runner in each of the polls from the beginning. Rixi, Nasrallah, 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 Rixi, Tito, Rixi, Tito, Nasrallah, 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 Tito, Rixi, Nasrallah, 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 Tito, Nasrallah, Nasrallah, Tito, Rixi, Nasrallah, 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 Tito, Nasrallah, Rixi, Nasrallah, and Nasrallah. Like, literally, the last poll has Nasrallah winning with 44.9% of the votes. And according to the graph right above it, it seems that the averages of all the polls have the Liberals, or Nasrallah, with 38.3%, followed by the Nationals with 32.3%, and the Libre Party with 29.67%. So, I mean, if I were in Honduras, obviously I'd probably be supporting Rixi. And I guess the safe bet would just be to say Nasrallah wins. But given, the whole, concerns in regards to, the validity of election things, I don't really know who I can really say definitively will win. There's a chance that there's just going to be a little bit of a problem just when the general election rolls around. And, well, hopefully the situation gets sorted, and hopefully no matter who wins, things go good for the country. So, yeah. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and click the bell to find a future video when it comes out. And if you want more content from me, consider supporting me on Patreon.